now. We also do entrepreneurial and startup assistance, and we help our manufacturers get the financing or connect to other resources, whether it's the federal government, the state government, or local and regional opportunities to get that kind of help and information that they need. This last little sentence I really want to spend 1 minute on, and that is we provide manufacturing assistance, consulting services, etc., to manufacturers that aren't served by other private entities out there. This is not to replace or displace other companies out there. In fact, we partner with most of those other companies. But most times, our smaller manufacturers don't know about resources or don't have access to resources or can't afford some of the market value resources. So we find innovative new ways to work with them. For instance, we may bring 2 or 3 companies together to share the cost of what a market value product and service might be. Or we partner with our community colleges, our universities, and private enterprises out there so that we can bring more products and more services to more manufacturers. Back to you.
Very good, Beth. Thank you. And as was just explained so well by Beth, it is public funding that enables the MEP centers to provide these services at below market rates. And so as a manufacturer, if you're listening, you're wondering, well, what does that mean for me? How do these dollars help companies that are out there in the real world trying to run things day to day? If you take a look at the economic impacts on this slide, you'll see they really are pretty remarkable. This is the New York State MEP Network economic impacts, and together it has total increased or retained sales have grown by nearly $485 million. Total increased retained jobs up over 3,600. New client investments close to 143 million. And then in cost savings, we're pretty close to 50 million on that. These are self-reported numbers, but it's important for you, the manufacturers who are out there, to realize that these numbers have been provided so that you can see the type of value that we provide overall and that you can hope to get yourselves. And a little map over on the right is pretty helpful too, because it talks about the different locations of the MEP centers across the state. So let's go to the next slide and take a closer look. As Beth mentioned, the MEP system in New York is a network. It's a statewide network. And we're all committed to doing the same thing, which is to growing manufacturing. And so if we take a look at some of the centers, these may be names that some of our manufacturers recognize and maybe not. So from left headed down and then across in the Capital Region, we've got the Capital Region, the Center for Economic Growth. There's the Central New York Technology Development Organization out in Syracuse. There's Finger Lakes High Tech Rochester out in the Rochester region, of course. On Long Island, there's the Manufacturing and Technology Resource Consortium at Stony Brook. In the Mid-Hudson Valley, there's the Manufacturing and Technology Enterprise Center, which you may remember as HVTDC. In the Mohawk Valley, you've got the Advanced Institute for Manufacturing at Mohawk Valley Community College. They often go by the acronym AIM. In New York City, there's ITAC, the Industrial and Technology Assistance Corporation. Up in the North Country, we've got SciTech. In the Southern Tier, there's the Alliance for Manufacturing and Technology, often called AM&T. Out in Western New York, there's Insyte Consulting. And then FuzeHub is the statewide MEP Center. So what's FuzeHub all about? Where do we fit into this? We just told you about the different centers across the state. You know that they serve regions. So where does FuzeHub fit in? What do we do? Our job is to accelerate the growth of small to medium-sized manufacturer companies statewide. So we work hand in hand with the different local and regional centers. Because we're statewide, we have a statewide footprint, meaning that if the resources you're looking for some reason are not available locally, we can find them for you. Our job is to increase the awareness of the MEP system overall. We want you to know about the expertise and capabilities, especially at your local MEP center. We're going to leverage whatever in-house expertise they have or encourage them to bring in their partners to look at what you, the manufacturer, need and then connect you with the resources that can do the work and can follow up. We're talking about a unique mix of technology, resources, and expertise. And this is not just something that exists online. There's events. Your local MEP center will come out and talk to you. They will tour your plant. They will do fact finding. They will make an assessment. So FuzeHub, we coordinate statewide projects overall. There are plenty of initiatives from New York State, and I'm happy to report they're aimed at small to medium-sized enterprises like you. Part of our mission at FuzeHub is programs and events. So solutions forums are a very big event category that we have, and this is when FuzeHub, typically with your local MEP center, we get together and we bring in lots of New York State funded resources, and then we invite in manufacturers so that very efficiently you can go and talk to resources all in one place, all at one time, and get the answers that you need to particular questions. Usually this is just the introduction, the first phase, but it's a great way for someone that's trying to run a plant to get the information they need and still do what they have to do day to day. FuzeHub also has a matching program and a portal. Let's start with that last piece first, the portal. It's an online website so that if at 2 a.m. you're a manufacturing CEO and you can't sleep because you're worried about a problem, you're looking for help, you can log in at 2 a.m. online and you can submit a request to FuzeHub. We may not see it right at 2 a.m., but within 24 hours, we will get back to you. This is part of our matching program, which is designed to really dig into what is on your mind, find out what you need, and then connect you with the right resources. FuzeHub also manages the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, which you can apply for as a manufacturer through a nonprofit. You've got to have the nonprofit organization be a lead. But this is a great way to get an award to do things like prototyping or some of the other work that you may not be able to do in-house. FuzeHub also markets New York State innovation assets, and we're responsible for New York State innovation and growth initiatives. So with that, I'm going to head over to Ben Rand from Insyte Consulting. Ben, it's all you.
Thanks, Steve. So I want to change the perspective a little bit. We've been talking a lot about MEP and what our system does and how it works federally and statewide. Now I want you to imagine that you're a company. You're a manufacturer. You've got basic everyday problems. You might have a good idea for a new product, not really know what to do with that. You might have some operational challenges, maybe a lot of scrap that you need to get your arms around. Or perhaps you're growing and you realize your business systems and your IT infrastructure is just not supporting your business. So fundamentally, we help you solve those problems. That's what MEP centers do. And while we're nonprofits, you should fundamentally think of us like any other business. We're going to come try and make an economic argument to you about how we can help your business be more competitive, be more successful, be more profitable. And I've got a couple of examples that I wanted to hit on. But first, to give you a sense of who we are, Insyte has been around since 1982. We're 35 years old this year. We're based in Buffalo, New York. We've got 12 employees here. And we basically are responsible for the 5-county area of Western New York, for all the work that gets done in that neck of the woods. Our impact since 2000 has been now about $2.3 billion. And as Steve mentioned, those numbers come from our clients. Our clients are surveyed on behalf of the Department of Commerce. So those are not our estimates. They're our clients' estimates about the impact we've had on their business. So let's talk now about some of these specific project examples. Steve, could we go to the next slide? So the first one I'd like to talk about is American Douglas, small contract manufacturer just outside of Buffalo. They basically respond to customer specs and manufacture to those specs. But they had an idea for a product of their own. The problem was, as a contract manufacturer, they weren't really sure how to tackle that. So the idea they had was for a bridge, a prefab bridge essentially, that you could put together out of a box with a couple of people and no heavy equipment. The objective was to meet bridge requirements at golf courses and in other venues where it's very expensive to have a bridge designed and constructed in the normal way. So they called us in to help them launch that idea. And we were able to focus them on some of the issues that contract manufacturers don't typically have to deal with. So, you know, what sizes are you going to sell these products in? What kind of instructions are you going to include so that your clients can put these bridges together themselves? How are you going to price this, and what does that market look like? Who are the competitors out there that you might have to deal with, or the alternative technologies? And we really help them understand what it takes to market your own private branded product. And it was a very interesting process for them, a very successful one. And as a result, they've actually started to commercialize 2 other own products or branded products. And they've essentially diversified from a contract manufacturer who's reliant on orders from others to a company with its own private branded products that can sell directly to the market. So that's one example of some of the kind of work that we can do in sales and marketing. Let's move to the next one, Steve. This company is very interesting. It's the only U.S. manufacturer of terracotta architectural products. So the kind of sheathing that you will see on the outside of large new buildings. This company was having problems with that terracotta, which is essentially a clay. They would extrude it and cut it to size, and then they dry it in kilns. The problem they were having is that a large portion of what they made and put into the kiln warped and was unsuitable for use. It basically was scrap. So they had to throw it away. Not only did they lose that product, but they also lost the capacity it represented because they no longer had a panel that they could sell. So it was kind of a double whammy for them. We use Six Sigma tools to identify the key variables in their process, and we're able to determine that how they oriented these panels in their kilns was causing the warping. They weren't getting even circulation of hot air around the panels. And a simple reorientation really improved the process. They were able to reduce their scrap by 85%, which was about a $1.3 million cost savings for them per year. They were able to increase their throughput by about 60%. And as a result, their annual sales jumped by about $2.5 million. So we were able to have a huge impact on both their top and their bottom line. And they've been able to grow pretty rapidly ever since then. All right, let's go to the third case. This is another small company, and by the way, all the companies I'm talking about are 150 or fewer employees. This company was in its 3rd generation and had been a successful company, albeit small. But the latest generation that took over was growing it successfully and discovering that the systems they had in place to manage their growth were not sufficient. So they wanted help in putting a new enterprise resource planning system in place, and that's where Insyte came in. That's not something a company does every day, and most small manufacturing companies don't have a lot of software expertise. So the first step was to help them actually define and document their requirements. What did they need the system to do? What kind of information did they want out of the system? Then we were able to help them with putting together an RFP, essentially approaching the market for solutions. We helped them evaluate the submittals they received, select the software, and then we help them oversee the implementation of that software. The bottom line was they were able to make a smooth and very rapid transition to a brand new IT system that ran all aspects of their business in an integrated way, and it jump-started their growth. The information they got from the system allowed them to manage not only their existing business, but the future business that was coming down the line. So these are just 3 examples of some of the kinds of work that MEP centers like Insyte Consulting do with small manufacturers in our area. The one thing I'd like to stress as a last thought is that we really work hands-on with our clients. Because we're local, we can be in your company, in your offices, on your shop floor every day, every week, every month while we're working with you. So this is not something that we do to our clients. These projects are something we do with our clients, hand in hand, and it makes a huge difference in terms of the success of these projects and making a real change. So I'd encourage you to take a look at what MEP might be able to do for your business. Thank you.
That was outstanding. So again, you've heard some real-world case studies from Ben Rand at Insyte, which is a great MEP center. The reason that they're so successful is because they make their clients succeed. So let's go now to Mike Lopsinger from the Center of Economic Growth in Albany, another great MEP center that's doing a lot for small to medium manufacturers. Mike?
Thank you, Steve. Welcome, everybody. Ben, you did a great job of really highlighting some of the aspects, I think, of the MEP program, especially the point about, working with these organizations. In a sense, we kind of almost embed ourselves within these projects. So I don't need to spend a lot of time, being a cheerleader for that part of it, and I can kind of just get right into a little bit about Center for Economic Growth and the service areas that we cover, and then some examples. So CEG has been a regional MEP center for nearly 30 years. Since when Beth talked when MEP program started, we were pretty much there at the beginning. We've served several hundred companies, providing over $500 million in economic benefit. And we're a unique MEP because we're both a membership and investor-driven economic development organization, as well as a business consulting organization, and serving the 8 counties of the Capital Region. So we kind of wear 2 hats. One hat is really all about economic development and looking at what the strategic goal is for the region, and the MEP really, driving growth with our businesses, our manufacturing businesses. We strive to attract new businesses and investment into the region that aligns with our Capital 2020 plan, grow and strengthen the competitiveness of our regional manufacturers and technology companies, and push the strategic agenda that prepares the region for that growth. At a very high level, that's what CEG does. As an MEP, we primarily provide services in 6 areas: tech acceleration, strategic and business growth, continuous improvement, supply chain, sustainability and energy, as well as workforce development. And I'll give you some examples of things that we do in those areas, and then close with some case studies. So as an example, in tech acceleration, we're looking at innovation of products, processes, markets, and business models. 2 areas that CEG is kind of unique right now, as we're one of the only MEPs providing a service known as technology-driven market intelligence and tech scouting. And TDMI, tech-driven market intelligence, is really saying, hey, I have a capability or a product or even a process that I want to put out to a new market. How can you help me understand what markets are out there? We can help you go very narrow and deep into a market, or look at very broadly and look at where opportunities are at. Tech scouting, on the other hand, is more around the lines of, hey, you know what, I have a problem with a process or a product, or I'm looking for something unique to solve a problem, and we can work with you to identify, is there a technology out there or a solution space out there that can solve that problem for you. It's a very methodical approach to solving problems. We also do a lot of work with startups. We have a Venture B program, which is a combination of both pitch coaching and working with startups to do their first venture pitch, but that's also coupled with actually having them do a pitch in front of a panel, but also some in-between workshops. We support organizations such as Innovate 518 and Startup Tech Valley and the Tech Valley Center of Gravity as part of our ecosystem in entrepreneurship. And our primary focus there is looking at companies that have a manufacturing play on what they're doing. One particular thing that's interesting that we've done recently is we've engaged in some National Science Foundation I-Corps projects where we worked with the University at Albany and the Atmospheric Science Research Center, who has been developing a device to help, in this case we were looking at the solar market, of really looking into, can you use this device to predict solar output? And so I spent several weeks with a team there traveling around and interviewing lots of customers. So we also have really good relationships with the different assets that are around the state, in particular one of them, which is a federal lab, is Benet Labs, when we can use them for a lot of advanced 3D printing capabilities. And also working closely with our Tech Valley Center of Gravity, which is a local makerspace that was recently awarded some funds to build a rapid prototyping center. That center will have access to a 3-axis CNC machine, a CNC router, there's going to be a thermoformer, a plasma cutter, and a few other things that I'm probably forgetting, so we're kind of just getting underway, helping them with that. And that was actually a project that was awarded through FuzeHub through the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund. Steve, next slide. So strategic and business growth, leveraging your company's capabilities and resources to increase sales. It's really three major areas that we're looking at is really like strategically looking at your business. And one main thing is sales. So we partner with our regional Sandler sales team that's here, and we help sell their services and help manufacturers train their salespeople to be more productive and use new skills to get those sales. Via revenue throughput is an example of a program where we actually sit down with your leadership staff through an entire program. It can be up to 8 weeks. It can be smaller than that, but we really get you to interact and look at different dimensions of your business. And I'll actually talk about that further in one of our examples. And we also have Export Tech, which is a 3-session, several week long program where if you're looking to export, helping you develop an actual business plan or strategy to go after new exports. So continuous improvement, this is for Ben, he calls this profit primarily, and it really is more about increasing your bottom line, looking at things such as lean enterprise and Six Sigma and quality. We do a lot in lean. It's one of our primary things. We have staff in-house that spends a lot of time working hands-on with companies. I will give an example of that. I'm going to move along here a little bit. We also have in-house is a sustainability person and have a lot of experience in the energy space and good relationships with NYSERDA, New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. Currently, we are doing things along the lines of energy benchmarking for anybody who wants to really benchmark their facility. We are in the process of launching a solarized manufacturing program, which is an aggregated purchasing program. So any manufacturer is looking to put in solar, this could be a good opportunity for you to get to a lower cost solar installation. And in fact, we're also doing a tech scouting project right now that relates to also environmental waste. So there is some overlap in some of these areas. Next slide, Steve. So some examples I'm going to give you are going to be a little bit different than what Ben gave, and touching on some of the areas that discussed before. So this particular company, Vitalvo, I've worked with Vitalvo before I was at CEG actually, and they were trying to do something with UV light and killing germs or in that nature, and they wanted to do it on IVs, and it just didn't seem to work out very well. And I had helped them pivot, and then since then I had moved to CEG and kind of brought them with me, and then helped them go through some development of a NYSERDA program to develop a disinfecting light that uses visible light spectrum with a 405 nanometer wavelength area, to where you can pretty much have a light that disinfects and it's safe for people to be around. So it's really disinfecting 24/7 or 8 hours a day, depending on how long the light's on. So as they were developing their product, they really needed to explore some markets. And we suggested that they go through technology-driven market intelligence. And this is a program that we partnered with RTI International. RTI International and the MEP program worked very closely together to train people within the MEP network how to go through their very well long-running program to do this type of work. So what we did is we got hold of some assistance days and to help reduce the cost of this program to Vitalvo. We ended up conducting some secondary and primary market research. So secondary was really looking broadly and understanding the market space and using the web and other tools to understand market spaces, and then primary is really getting down in the weeds and actually talking to potential customers. In this particular thing, RTI or Vitalvo was looking at compound pharmacies as a potential market. So we generated, an opportunity with some real C-level contacts within that market, had some very straightforward, frank conversations with them, and there was a definite interest. And this actually led Vitalvo to have much better understanding of that market, how to approach that market, and led to one of their first sales opportunities. So the next case study is in our continuous improvement in lean enterprise. And like Ben said, when we go into these things, it's very much a hands-on thing. We're working with you. Tom in our office, he'll be there if you're doing some 5S and painting and taping a lines. He's on the floor with you. He's helping you put that stuff down. So Frank Merkin Products, Schenectady-based manufacturer. They make custom gaskets and industrial hydraulic hoses, and they also do some specialty distribution of products. And they were one of their larger customers in the aerospace industry came in to do an audit because they really wanted them to be up to snuff when it came to lean. And when they did the audit, the president was very shocked that he thought they were running great and smoothly and everything would be really dandy. And the audit really revealed that there was a lot of areas in need of improvement. So he was sitting in a position where he could actually lose a primary customer if he did not make some changes. So to achieve these goals, Frank Merkin engaged CEG as the MEP. We started this program off as a 2-day staff training on the principles of lean manufacturing. It's kind of, we call it Lean 101. We brought in a bunch of their staff. We went through basic principles of lean and took them through some simulation just to get them familiar with lean, because many of them were not familiar with lean. That then led into a series of value stream mapping of their gasket and hose product families. And I also believe we did some work in their shipping area as well. That took several weeks and developed both the current state of that value stream map and started looking at what the future state of that would be. So we really were working towards identifying where those opportunities were to improve their process and reduce their lead times and save their costs, as well as it would help with their quality as well. So From that, we worked with them once we knew what the future state was going to be. Did plant layout and design for their gaskets manufacturing area. Kind of took them through that process, and then when we got into the other areas, we kind of handed it off more to them. So we kind of did this training consulting together, and then guided them to the next spot. And I believe it was the shipping area where we really focused on with their other layout design. So they did a lot of different lean methods. So now they're on the lean journey, and as you'll hear from us, lean is a journey. It's not really you do it and you're done. It's something you're continually doing, and that's why it's called continuous improvement. Through this program, Frank Merkin made $93,000 of investment. We were able to save them about $40,000. They saw an increase in sales from this effort, but also they retained that one customer, and it was a $1.4 million customer. So, and they also added one job. So, next slide. So the other thing I'm going to talk about is the revenue growth throughput program. And while I'm even going to have Dave Davis at the end of this talk a little bit about this, because this is about him. So, so Simmons Machine Tool, they make tools and measuring machines and automated systems for the railway wheel set production and maintenance. Dave's company is very active in the area, and I thought he would make a great case study. So. What we did with Dave is we talked to him a little bit about our revenue throughput program, and this can be a multi-day engagement, full day of looking at different tools and dimensions of business, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think the story was, and Dave can confirm this, but he wanted to know how he could fire customers, and that's kind of what it does. It's looking for you, is like where are your top opportunities when you're looking across all dimensions of your business. So, so we went through 8 days of hands-on training and coaching with Dave and his team. They actually did the full program. We engaged them in 7 business dimensions. We look at their ideal target market, the strategy, their resources, their marketing, their production, their sales, and their fulfillment. This all happened over 3 months. We used several tools going through this to kind of get them to narrow down. One of them is called the Revenue Throughput Scorecard, where you're really being honest with your team and you're scoring yourself and you're getting input from different people. And it kind of gives you a benchmark, like, where are we today? And it also, from that, provides the company with insights on what their internal and external capabilities are, aligning those with potential new offerings and opportunities so they can prioritize their strategic plans. A good time to do this program is when you're actually looking at your strategy very closely. Dave's a really great example because they took that revenue throughput scorecard and they used it many, many, many times in different areas and business units of their company, which really helped give them a lot of visibility on different ideas they were having for their strategic growth. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to turn it over to Dave, so Dave can kind of give you some input about this project.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Yeah, so as Mike had indicated earlier, Simmons manufactures some pretty complex machines. So to give you an idea, there's about 4,000 to 5,000 discrete components per machine. And it's a pretty highly specialized field, as one can imagine. We do a lot of exporting, do a lot of domestic projects. But what we've always tried to wrestle with is, could we expand the sales growth of the company by going into adjacent markets, utilizing our core competencies. And, we would talk about these things amongst the senior management team and strategic planning meetings, but we had a difficult time trying to put them in a context that we all shared a common language in assessing these strategic opportunities. And what VIA RTP really gave us was this scorecard that kind of looks at your whole sales process, your whole process from getting the customer, processing it through your sales department, engineering department, manufacturing, ship it, install it, service it. It looks at that whole process chain, and it tries to determine what of these new opportunities has a smoother chance, a better chance of making it through that process chain? Where are the bottlenecks, and what needs to be addressed to break those bottlenecks? And you know, you have generally a numerical score that you can then compare from one idea to the other. We're still early in the process. We actually used it as part of our strategic planning process for this year, and we have a plan from now until 2020 where we are shooting for about a 15 to 18% annual growth rate. That's pretty good when you're building complex machines like this, and that's been a very key program for us. We've also done some work with CEG and Lean, basic training for employees in 5S, value stream mapping, and Kaizen, and that process is pretty new for us. We just completed the training in fourth quarter, and actually even continued some training in the first quarter of this year, but we're already starting to see some benefits in housekeeping. As you can imagine, when you're building such complex machines with so many parts, it's really easy for the shop to get out of control and parts to go missing, and we've actually missed shipping deadlines due to a $50 part missing in a multi-million-dollar machine. So that's the bogey that we're trying to target and go after and reduce those kind of wasteful things.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
All right, Mike and Dave, thank you. It was excellent. We'd like to get to some questions soon. Again, if you have questions for any of our panelists, please enter them into the chat window. Very briefly, let's recap some of the things you learned. If you didn't know what the MEP Center was about 40 minutes ago, now you do. The most important part is what MEP can do for your company, for your business. And as you heard from Ben, Mike, and also from Dave, there are real-world examples. These are real services. The MEP Center in your area are the boots on the ground. We covered the economic impact and structure. We talked about what FuzeHub does, and we looked at some great case studies thanks to 2 great MEP centers. So we want to continue this conversation with you, but I'd like to tell you about a couple of things. I'd like to invite you to a few things. Each MEP center has their own events, but FuzeHub has some upcoming solutions forums that may be coming close to you. Next month, April 12th, in the Southern Tier, we are having a solutions forum there. There's going to be one in July in the Capital Region, and then in September, we'll be up in the North Country. As part of the events that we provide, there are also SBIR workshops. If you're interested in SBIR funding, we can help you get started. The best way to get more information about these things is to go and look at the FuzeHub website, which is www.fusehub.com.
Great.
Okay, so I think we're now ready for questions.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Everyone, hello, my name is Elena Garrick. I'm Executive Director of FuzeHub, and I'm going to facilitate the Q&A session. So thanks. We got a couple questions here in the queue that I will read out loud, and I will either answer them myself or hand them over to a panelist. The first question it sounds like, although similar, different MEPs offer some services unique to their MEP. Can we work with an MEP outside of our region if they offer something our local MEP center does not? Absolutely. The regional centers are developed so each manufacturer could access resources within a car drive. I always recommend going to your regional center, if not for a specific service, just to get engaged, make sure you're connected to a network. You have an opportunity to work with their team on upcoming events and making sure you're plugged in. But there are different expertise around the network, and that's something FuzeHub definitely tries to connect you with, and you can work with, you know, any regional center you want. But typically, your home center will guide you through that process. The next question is, will this deck or recording be available to view later? Yes, right after this webinar, and if it hasn't been already, we're going to post up this the presentation on our event page where you signed up for the webinar. Okay, this one I'm going to pass off to one of our panelists, but it's, I'm going to read this whole thing. What are you doing about the recent budget that totally wipes out MEP funding? Is there something for us listeners, coworkers to do to petition our representatives strategically? So I am going to actually, if Ben Rand is still on, I'm going to ask him to maybe speak to that question.
Sure, Elena, I'm still here. Thanks for that question.
You're welcome.
There are a couple of things you can do. We are, in fact, having clients and partners of MEP send support letters to their congressional delegation. You can find those at the American Small Manufacturers Coalition website, which is www.smallmanufacturers.org. And we would welcome any of that assistance to let our congressional delegations know of the important work that MEP is doing in their community with their constituents. So thanks for that question.
Thank you, Ben. Another question that came in is, what support do you provide with respect to SBIR and STTR? So as Steve mentioned earlier, FuzeHub actually has a SBIR workshop series. We've held 3 around the state. We're having one coming up April 14th in the North Country. But you'll find at your local MEP centers connections to SBIR expertise. Some MEP centers actually have, I know Insyte and the Central New York MEP Center have in-house SBIR experts. So we have those folks within the network. Your regional centers can also connect you to some other services. I know some local SBDCs provide services for SBIR. Some of that training is actually at no cost to the company. It really depends on what type of information you're looking for. But again, connect with your local MEP center or put a request through FuzeHub, and we will find you, try to help you find the resource you're looking for. And so the answer is yes, we do assist in that area. The next question. So how much do you charge for your service? So that's an interesting question, and I think it's kind of hard to answer that. I'm not going to be able to probably have a facilitated with the panelists because I think it varies across the network. And it varies across where you are in the state, and it varies on the project. So I think the best way to have to answer that question for the individual who asked it or those that are interested is really to contact your local MEP center, talk to them about the project that you have or the need that you have, and they will come, as Steve mentioned earlier, they will walk through your plan or sit with you in your facility and really do an in-depth assessment of what you need. And then pricing is discussed after the fact.
Hey, Elena?
Yes.
This is Ben again, and I completely agree with you. You're exactly right. Pricing varies depending on the scope of the project work. One thing I did want to mention is that what we do here at Insyte and what some of our sister centers do is we will typically show you in our proposal, you the client, what full price for a project would be, and then what your net price is after accounting for the subsidies that are provided by New York State and by the federal MEP program to us. So you'll be able to see the delta between what you would have to pay without MEP and New York State support, if that's helpful to you. We also reflect grants if they apply in that same analysis, so you can also see how much of the cost may be offset by a grant that you're eligible for. So normally you've got a full picture.
Thank you for adding that, Ben. That's great. A next question is, do the MEP Center support NYSERDA's clean tech incubators and their clients? And I'd like to pass it over to Michael Lopsinger.
Throw me under the bus, huh? So yes, we do. So I mean, in particular, CG has a lot of experience working with NYSERDA in the past. We are not, we don't try to come in and play. I know there's a lot of incubators and things going on in the region. We try to be more of a facilitator or a connector when it comes to them. And looking for other resources. NYSERDA clean tech incubators, if there's a manufacturing play or a need for a contract manufacturer, we definitely can help out, and even take a second look at what you've been doing and how you've been progressing through the incubator program, it's always good to have another set of eyes just looking and asking you questions and making sure that you're getting the help that you need and that you're moving forward. So.
Great. Ben, anything you wanted to add about collaborations with the NYSERDA's Clean Tech Incubators? I know there's a lot of activity with the MEP Centers across the state.
That's true, and actually the local NYSERDA office is on the same floor of our building. So we cooperate very closely with them and have done work for a number of companies that have NYSERDA backing, including incubator participation.
Great, thank you. Question that just came in, do MEP centers help with identifying markets for a product? Absolutely. So I will put that, we'll go to Ben, and then maybe Mike may want to add to that as well.
Sure, that's one of our key offerings under our sales and marketing umbrella. So we will typically help companies, for instance, during the Great Recession, there were a number of companies that were looking to diversify their markets because they had over-reliance on, say, automotive. And we were able to go in. We typically work with those clients to understand their core competence, what they're really doing, and what their companies, their customers are buying. And we were able to identify other markets, might be aerospace, might be industrial equipment, where some of those capabilities are really going to play in their favor. We then help them structure their messaging and reorient some of their marketing to capture business in those markets. When it comes to international, we also help identify the best export markets, and we can connect companies with reps and distributors overseas in order to enable market diversification internationally too. So we do a lot of that work.
Great. Mike, anything you want to add to that, or did Ben cover it pretty well?
Yeah, no, that was great, actually. The only other thing I would say, and Lane, I know you're aware of this too, is like if you're looking at markets, the MEP program also has some access to some databases and tools about different market sizes and how those markets are performing. So we can actually even bring tools to the table of looking like how healthy is that market that you're looking at. So.
Thank you. We're going to try to take 2 more questions. We got a few more than that, and we'll respond to those others, in the chat room. But another question is: do MEP and FuzeHub have access to existing contracts? I believe what that is asking is for bidding on supply chain or vendor contracts. So I will maybe give that to Mike. Do we help companies go after RFPs and have access to that kind of information?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, first we're going to probably try to go in and understand, and this is somewhat of a supply chain thing, is understanding, what are your needs and your wants. Obviously we're a federally subsidized program. We want you to try to, look at focusing on local suppliers, regional suppliers in the U.S., and look for solutions within the U.S. We definitely have examples of different requests for proposals that we've done with other partners, and recommendations on maybe even negotiation for cost for products, and things along that nature. So to me, it's always a case by case when it comes to those things, because everybody has some unique needs until you understand a little bit about what the goals of the organization are.
Thanks. And anything you want to add about your experience with helping companies go after contracts?
Sure. We can help companies in terms of what performance requirements may be needed to qualify for certain contracts. Certainly if you need certain kinds of quality certification to qualify, we've done that work. Generally, we're not getting involved in RFPs, just general RFPs, but there are cases where we're doing a lot of informal matchmaking. So it's not unusual for a contractor to approach us and ask if we know somebody who can do, some metal bending for them, or some molding, a particular need they're trying to meet. The one case where we may get involved in RFPs is when we're helping companies develop supply chains. So we've done some reshoring or backshoring work for companies bringing manufacturing back from China to the States, and they basically need to reconstruct a supply chain. So we've helped identify, what are those items that they need to source, get those specs cleaned up, put together RFP packages, and then we can get those RFPs into the hands of companies that we think are logical candidates to be suppliers. But that's not government contracts or government RFPs.
Great, thank you. Well, we are out of time. The questions we were not able to answer on the call, we will respond in the chat room. To remind everyone, this presentation will be up on the FuzeHub website. We also have a section on our website about the MEP program with a direct link to all of your regional centers with information on their website. You can connect with your regional center. You can tap into FuzeHub. There's a lot of ways to get connected into this network. And we look forward to seeing you at our future events, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So thank you very much to our panelists, and we hope everybody has a great afternoon.